Hi everyone, it's Angie. Welcome back to my channel, Angie and the Great World. It's taken me a little while to get this filmed, but I did want to share with you the titles that I finished in September. Now, before I get into the books, I did want to mention that I am in Texas again, which is why this background might look a little familiar to you. I arrived September 21st and I will be here until about October 23rd. Then I will be going back to Mexico for a couple of months, where I hope to get my dad's estate completely settled. And then my plan is to come back to the US in January permanently. I will not be living here where I have lived for many, many years, here in this house, which is why I have like shelves without books. I'm trying to get my things packed. Oh, that's why I have these boxes here. I'm trying to get my things packed. These books right here, except for the two white books on the top, I'm getting rid of, and I'm keeping all of that too. So I need to get that packed. These are just books that I'm selling, I think. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, let me go ahead and get into what I read in September. I think that was all I wanted to mention beforehand. Okay, so the first book that I read was Very Good Jeeves by P.G. Wodehouse. This is book 4 in the Jeeves series. Now, after reading this book, I realized that I prefer the Smith novels to reading about Jeeves and Bertie. It's not that I don't like Jeeves and Bertie. I really am entertained by their shenanigans, but the format of this book was just very repetitive. There's some sort of trouble and Jeeves finds a solution. And while, I mean, Wodehouse's writing is superb, it was just very much, too much of the same thing. And I don't know, I know I've read a couple of other books in the Jeeves series, and I don't remember if they follow the same format. And also, talking about Smith, I've only actually read one book about Smith, but honestly, that turned out to be one of my favorite reads of, when was that? 2020? 2019? 2019 probably. So yeah, not my favorite. Very Good Jeeves. I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. All right, then I read Beezus and Ramona by Beverly Cleary. That is book 1 in the Ramona Quimby series. I started reading the Ramona series because I'm hosting a very, very casual read-along of the series over on Instagram. We read book 1 in September. This month we read book 2, Ramona the Pest. Next month we're going to read Ramona the Brave. And I really enjoyed book 1. I thought it was fabulous. Beverly Cleary does a really great job of capturing like the fears and the curiosity and just what it's like to be a child. So I really enjoyed book 1. Book 2, not as much, but you'll hear more about that one in my October reads. All right, then I finished God's Guidance, A Slow and Certain Light by Elizabeth Elliot. I actually started reading that book in July, and I didn't finish it until September. Now, it's kind of funny. The reason I picked it up in July is because I thought it was going to be a book whose guidance or instruction I needed because of actually, I think I picked it up. No, I did. I picked it up July 4th. July 4th is when I first picked it up. And I started reading it because I thought I was going to need the information in the book because of some things that were happening in my personal life. And then I put it down with my move to Mexico and things that were going on. I put it down, and then I didn't pick it back up until September. So that whole time I had been praying, and even before that, I had been praying to God for guidance for a particular situation. And I knew I had to make a decision about this situation, but I wanted to make sure that, I was doing God's will, including in this situation. And I just felt like I wasn't hearing God's voice. I didn't have any signs. I didn't have any advice from people. Well, no, that's not true. I did have some advice, but the advice came later after I asked people, for their opinions. So I just felt so overwhelmed and so alone. And I made a decision that was very difficult and possibly could have been life-changing. But I made a decision in what felt to me like without God. And so after I made that decision, I picked the book up again, and I still, prayed to God, asking him to show me if I had made a mistake. And again, I felt like I was not hearing from him. And then I got to the end of the book, and it was exactly the last paragraph, the last few sentences spoke exactly about what I had been asking God to help me with. And I wanted to read the last paragraph, if I can find it, along with another passage, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But let me get to that final paragraph, because when I read it, I think it was definitely my answer to prayer. It was confirmation about what I'd been praying about. Let me find the page and I'll get back to you guys in just a bit. I don't know if anything I just said prior to this made any sense. It was very personal, so it probably won't make any sense to you, but here's the paragraph that I wanted to share with you. When Paul, Silas, and Timothy were traveling together as missionaries in Asia Minor, they attempted to go into Bithynia, but the Spirit of Jesus did not allow them. We could wish Luke had told us exactly how the Spirit of Jesus stopped them, but it is enough for us to know that the men who were bent on obedience to God had made, in the integrity of their hearts, we may believe, a wrong decision, and that God reversed it. And your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it," when you turn to the right or when you turn to the left. So that was very comforting to me, to know that if the decision I made, feeling like I had made it without God, was a mistake, that God in his goodness would reverse my mistake. And so again, it was what I needed to hear, and it was definitely an answer to prayer. The other paragraph that I wanted to share is from chapter 1, where Elizabeth Elliot breaks down the Lord's Prayer. And she talks about the line, "Give us this day our daily bread." And I really liked the visual she used to explain, or to, interpret that line in the prayer. So I wanted to share that too. With this petition, we come down to the bottom of the stairs, as it were, down here where we live, the world of human needs and burdens and sins and limitations. The humble business of ordinary food and ordinary necessities reminds us of our utter dependence on God. We would not draw the next breath if it were not for his giving us life and breath. So we make our declaration of dependence in these simple words. When we look at them in contrast to the spiritual things prayed for first, they seem trivial, but the Lord taught us to pray this way. To him, nothing is trivial or important, nothing small or great, for he is all and fills all in all. He will not have us imagining that material things are in themselves unworthy, but are in fact his gifts and meant to be received gladly and humbly from his hand. He made us human. He made us to need what he gives. He tells us to ask for it. Bread, or something like it, is the most basic human need. But I think we may include all human needs under this heading. Guidance is one of them. I like to picture the Lord handing me a platter at the beginning of each new day. On it are the things he has chosen as best for me, and my prayer for daily bread is answered. My part is to receive whatever he gives. Guidance for a decision that need not be final until next Wednesday may require one small move or commitment today. I accept that and act on it without haggling with God, because he has not yet granted me all the information I'm itching for. Perhaps patience is his gift of bread for today, or quietness, or the gift of uncertainty, that I may rest in his love, confident that when the time is right, the guidance will be clear. So yeah, just a wonderful book. I really feel like I learned a lot from it, a lot that I was able to apply to my life. That doesn't mean that, you know, I made peace with the decision I made or with the circumstances that I was going through. I'm still feeling a lot of frustration and uncertainty, and a lot of emotional, things that I'm having to deal with and work through and come to terms with. But anyways, that's it for God's guidance. And then the last book, I feel like I'm washed out, but I don't know. Anyways, and then the last book that I read in September is Surprised by Joy by C.S. Lewis. Now, this book turned out to be less entertaining than I thought it was going to be, and it was also a lot more philosophical than I expected it to be. In fact, the first half of the book I would say was very abstract, and I had a hard time understanding exactly what C.S. Lewis was talking about. Now, obviously, I know where the book was headed. I knew where it was going, but there was just so much that didn't make sense to me. The last half of the book, I would say maybe the last 5 or 6 chapters, felt more accessible. I don't know if that's because by that point I had kind of familiarized myself with Lewis's writing, or if maybe things just were more concrete. So I'm not sure. But anyways, I gave that 3 stars on Goodreads. It's a book that I would want to reread with somebody more knowledgeable than myself. So yeah, maybe it might be a good group read to do in the future. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I will talk to you later.